How many Canadians are going to have to cut back on Christmas this year?
How many Canadians are getting nothing for Christmas this year because they can't afford it?
How many Canadians will not even be able to have a meal for Christmas this year?
And how many Canadians won't have a home to wake up in on Christmas morning this year? That's the tragedy of this government.
The problem is with this Prime Minister, the future never comes. It's a promise that's always just around the corner. For example, his $4 billion housing accelerator has completed exactly 0 homes 2 years after it was announced. And here's why. The other day he announced a bunch of money in Halifax. And where did the money go, according to the city? To hire 29 new bureaucrats. Wow. The same bureaucrats that are blocking the housing construction in the first place. Why doesn't he accept my common sense plan to require cities boost housing completions by 15% in order to get federal money so that we build homes, not bureaucracy?
Well, that confirms where we thought the money was going in the first place when they started this charade in London.
And that seems to confirm our suspicions that with Trudeau's plan, they just hand the money over to the city officials and they're done. It doesn't have to go to housing from the sounds of it. At least with Pierre's plan, the cities do not get the money until the houses are built.
Well, and here's the thing. How do you reduce bureaucracy? You reduce the number of bureaucrats.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I hate to break it to the Leader of the Opposition, but a TikTok video is not a plan. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work, to roll up our sleeves and deliver for Canadians every step of the way. While the Conservatives are flip-flopping all over the place, refusing to stand with workers, refusing to stand with Ukraine, watching too much far-right American TV, we're going to stay focused on delivering concretely for Canadians. With the lowest deficit in the G7, the best debt to GDP ratio in the G7, the best AAA credit rating of all countries around the world except for the top 3 of which we're part, we're going to continue delivering for Canadians.
God, he is such a terrible speaker.
He's such a terrible person.
And here's the thing. The problem is he's blustering all of this stuff, but look at Canada. Canadians are struggling more than they've ever been since the Great Depression. Nobody can afford anything. Nobody can afford to live anywhere. Tent cities are popping up. Sooner or later, Canadians won't even be able to afford to buy a tent.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let me be the first of the season to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Quelle belle célébration.
What a beautiful celebration Christmas is.
Including Christmas, Mr. Speaker. But unfortunately, after 8 years, this Prime Minister promises nothing but a carbon-taxed lump of coal for Canadians. Will he get off the backs of Canadians so that they can enjoy beautiful gifts, maybe even a turkey and a warm meal around the Christmas table this season?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to point out that we're the government that's phasing out coal, Mr. Speaker, over the opposition of the Leader of the Opposition. We're going to continue to build a better and brighter future for all Canadians, and that includes fighting against climate change so we can ensure that we keep a stronger future for Canadian children to be able to go sledding, but also so that we can make sure that they have better jobs into the future. The climate denialism of the Conservative Party of Canada is putting future white Christmases at risk, and that's why on this side of the House we stand for Christmas.
You guys stand for Christmas? A federal commission declared Christmas as religious intolerance. That's your federal commission, Trudeau.
Yeah, that was in an article in the National Post. You guys stand for Christmas. Okay. Yeah, this is getting more ridiculous by the second, everybody.
opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that has to be the angriest and most caustic Christmas message I've ever seen. This is a guy, he hasn't phased out coal despite his theatrics over there, Mr. Speaker. What he's doing is phasing out food because Canadians can't afford it. Now, as he raises carbon taxes on the wonderful farmers that bring it to our table, why won't he axe the tax on farmers so that Canadians can eat, heat, and house themselves? And why doesn't he be a little less like Scrooge and a little more like Santa Claus?
Wow.
Very nice.
Don't get into the battle of wits with Pierre, man. He's really, really good at those comebacks. And he's right. Like you're literally phasing out food. It's sad. 7 million, almost 1/4 of this country is skipping meals.
And 2 million Canadians are going to a food bank.
It's sad. And he's over there talking like it's Christmas morning and there's presents to open for everybody.
How many Canadians are going to have to cut back on Christmas this year?
How many Canadians are getting nothing for Christmas this year because they can't afford it?
How many Canadians will not even be able to have a meal for Christmas this year? These are the questions that Trudeau is not asking himself. He doesn't care. He's too far above it. He's too rich. He's too arrogant.
And how many Canadians won't have a home to wake up in on Christmas morning this year? That's the tragedy of this government.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of the issues we have is when he talks about the impact of our price on pollution on farmers, he includes farmers in Ukraine. He includes farmers who are busy feeding us and feeding people around the world. He has stood against the free trade deal that Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainian people want us to have because he pretends we're imposing a price on pollution on them, which of course we are not. But that is the extent to which he will spin up to make a political attack when it is completely unfounded. We will be there to stand with Ukraine and with Christmas, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Can't even have a little bit of fun in this place, Mr. Speaker, because of course once he's off script, that's when he starts rambling all over the map, unable to stay on any subject possible. The question was about the cost of food, after he's forced Canadians to line up in bread lines that we have not seen since the Great Depression. 2 million, a record-smashing 2 million visits to a food bank. And now he sees it as the time to quadruple the tax on the farmers that feed us. Will he stop blocking common sense Conservative Bill C2, 3, 4 to take the tax off the farmers so that Canadians can afford Christmas?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
97% of farm fuel emissions are already exempt from our price on pollution. That is what the Leader of the Opposition refuses to accept. There are many factors that go into the rise in food prices, not just in Canada and around the world, and the war in Ukraine is certainly one of them. So the fact that they have not chosen to stand with Ukraine against Russia in this difficult time is very much relevant, no matter how much they try to dodge and spin out of it. They're not standing with Ukraine at this difficult time.
Here, here.
You asked a price about food. I'm going to answer the question as if it was a question about Ukraine. And again, we've talked about this before. We've shown this before. There is literally a passage in the new trade deal that says price on carbon. So unfounded. It's section 7, subsection H, for those who want to look at it. It's there. That's what they're voting against. It's a poison bill. They know it's a poison bill. You know it's a poison bill.
Canadians know it's a poison bill thanks to channels like Northern Perspective.
Right. Like he cannot tell the truth. He literally can't. And we talked about the other day, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation estimated that it's going to save farmers $1 billion. $1 billion if C234 goes through. And if Trudeau is saying, well, 97% is already covered, so, well, according to you, then there's not much left, so why don't you just exempt the rest of it?
Exactly.
This Prime Minister would like Canadians to think about anything other than their hungry stomachs after 8 years in office. He would like Canadians to forget that he has doubled the cost of rent, that he wants to quadruple the carbon tax, that he's given us the worst interest rate hikes in Canadian history. The least he could do is back off on his plan to quadruple the tax on our farmers. So, will he stop blocking Bill C234, the common sense conservative bill to take the tax off our farmers so that our Canadian people can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that might be a little more of a credible question if it hadn't been for the fact that the Conservative Party delayed implementation of our Affordability Act that brought in more competition on groceries, that is moving forward to stabilize grocery prices and support Canadians through this difficult time. They've also stood against other initiatives we're supporting Canadians with, like dental care for young Canadians, but also for seniors as is coming in the coming months. They've stood against the supports like our grocery rebate. They've stood against the investments that we're busy making to support Canadians right across the country because they stand for austerity and cuts.
Okay, that was a long one. Pierre and Justin don't usually go head to head this often, but here's the thing. Justin has to. I don't think he has a choice now because he is so far behind in the polls.
Well, and just this garbage that he's rattling on, I don't think that's going to help him at all.
No, because Canadians are going to listen to that and be like, dude, I'm living in a tent. I'm living in an apartment that I'm going to be evicted from in a couple of months because I can't afford it. I'm going to lose my house when I have to renew my mortgage. Like, come on. And then Freeland, puts in these new rules for the banks. Oh, well, just let people open 100-year mortgages. Are you kidding me?
But they're just guidelines. They're not even really rules. The banks have no obligation to follow them.
No, they don't. They don't. Because they're banks.
It's toothless.
But, if Trudeau thinks that this new strategy is going to be turning him around in the polls, trying to demonize the Conservatives, link them with quote-unquote far-right American politics, which there's no resemblance at all. Doesn't matter if you like far-right American politics or not. There's no resemblance at all. And calling him a liar. Meanwhile, he's the guy that has this government that is just embroiled in scandal after scandal after scandal. Canadians are tired of this government wasting money. They're sick of it. Especially because it's their money that's being stolen from them and they can't afford anything. And then he turns around and spends this on garbage. Oh, well, we're investing in... No, you're not. The problem is you've run out of money and you're trying to find ways to get more taxes. So if he really thinks this is the way to elevate himself in the polls, I say, good on you, Justin. Keep it up. Let's see how low you can go.